Experiences are what people love the most about travel. Viator is a website and app where you can book travel experiences like hiking Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania or enjoying the views while cruising on a catamaran in the Caribbean. They offer everything from simple tours to extreme adventures. With over 300,000 bookable experiences in 190 countries, there's something for everyone. Plus, Viator's travel experiences have millions of real traveler reviews, so you have the information you need to book the best activities for your trip. When you book a travel experience with Viator, there's always flexibility and support with free cancellation, payment options, and 24/7 service. Download the Viator app now and use code Viator10. That's Viator 10 for 10% off your first booking in the app. One app, over 300,000 travel experiences you'll remember. Do more with Viator.
Boobies!
Hi, hello.
Hello and hi and hey.
Welcome.
Welcome. My name's Caitlin.
And my name's Joshua.
And this is
Boobies.
Boobies.
Where we talk about your favorite horror movies, not so favorite horror movies,
and boobies.
and boobies.
We got some nice boobies in this one today.
These boobies were
Next level
like
boobies.
literally the best pair of boobs I've ever seen.
I know.
And I'm not
Everything
necessar-
about her
yeah.
is the best I've ever seen.
Yeah, Marlene Clark, she's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
The whole time.
And so is Dr. Hess.
yeah,
What's
yeah,
his
Dr.
name?
Hess, Dwayne Jones.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Also gorgeous. Oh my God.
Um,
I was like, whoa. And when they finally got together, I was like, they look so good together.
I'm breathing so heavily. Hi, you guys. And well, if we haven't discussed it or said it already, we're going to be covering Ganja and Hess today.
Ganja and Hess, 1973, directed by Bill Gunn.
Mm-hmm.
So what made me like choose this movie, because not only, I mean, as we discussed last week, we are covering Black producers and directors this week this month.
This month, just to honor Black History Month. And Caitlin.
Of course, we'll also highlight Black and other, please.
Other times of the year as
Yeah.
well. Yeah,
And
for sure.
other
Definitely.
like races and stuff. But anyways, this one it caught my eye. I was on a little list thingy of some of the most like iconic Black produced horror films.
Mhm.
And this one I just thought was so cool because basically Bill Gunn they had asked him to create yet another blaxploitation
Yes.
film, and and I believe they were originally thinking something along the lines of like Blackula, Blackenstein,
Mm-hmm.
one of those just, wow, this really isn't okay.
Yeah.
And
A movie that
way
relied
over
heavily
the
on
top.
stereotypes
Yes.
and racism.
Yes. And then Bill Gunn said, I see, like, I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to not do that and give you this like art house masterpiece
Mm-hmm.
instead.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it is about vampires, but they're never explicitly
It's never
called
mentioned.
vampires.
The way that this movie does a lot throughout the whole movie, where you're having to piece together
it is so symbolic.
what's happening. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's super like drowning in symbolism, and you have to like really pay attention, and then
Yeah.
not through words but through the visuals you get what's happening.
Yeah, the visuals and then the sound, like the sound effects and the music. Like if you didn't have closed captioning on, if I didn't have closed
I had it
captioning on,
yeah, but
well-
I didn't turn that until about maybe 25-30 minutes into the movie, and it really did help to
yeah.
transform what was happening for me.
because
Yeah.
even the opening song is basically telling you the story.
Yeah.
And so there's so many times in the film itself where the music for this film was absolutely beautiful. I thought, and it was all
I agree.
written by one guy. But anyways, yeah, it just was, it was really amazing the way it was done. And so, basically, like this, I like this little snippet of how they described this film, so I'm going to read it. It's from GameSpot.com, so I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah.
But it says Ganja and Hess now stands as one of the finest independent horror movies of the 1970s. But this is a reputation it's only acquired over the past few years, helped by a long overdue Blu-ray release and a recent Spike Lee remake. It's an eerie vampire yarn directed by playwright Bill Gunn, and was the only other starring role for Dwayne Jones, the star of The Night of the Living Dead. Ganja and Hess is a weird atmospheric love story between a rich anthropologist turned bloodsucker and the widow of a man he has killed. Even though he didn't fucking kill him.
Yeah.
He killed himself, bitch. Gunn was given full creative control by producers who just wanted a black vampire film to cash in on the blaxploitation craze. Instead, they got a haunting, oblique, and wildly uncommercial masterpiece, and that was as much a study of race, class, and religious hypocrisy as it was a vampire movie.
There you go.
And I just, that was what made me, like, reading that, I was like, I want to watch that.
And that's all sums it up very, very nice with a little bow on it.
Yeah, I was like, that
because
sounds
that's exactly
really cool.
what it is. Because it is very like also when going back and learning more about the movie, you are correct that they wanted him to just like make another run of the mill, like making fun of, you know, stereotypes and stuff like that. But he wanted to make something that actually relied on the story and actually relied on like narratives of like power and like addiction and all these serious like underlying things that they're not spoken on, but you get through the movie and it can transfer on to like other things in real life that aren't like as fictional as vampirism.
Yes.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was just basically,
especially with a lot of the religious undertones that were carried throughout the whole movie as well.
So the whole thing made me be like, man, are all Christians vampires?
Very thought-provoking. Which
yeah.
I love when movies can like, you know, really challenge like what you're watching, especially with this where you're having to really pay attention to the visuals.
So much of it. Oh God, the coloring, everything, the saturation.
I loved throughout the whole movie that like how it was filmed and that grainy, you know, very like
because it was actual film.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It looks I mean, it is what it is. We call it vintage now because that's what it is to us now, but back then that's just how
it
was. But it's just beautiful and it actually fits, very fitting to the style of the film. It doesn't like, there are some movies that you now watch where it kind of hinders the movie because it's like, oh, this seems a little outdated. But for this, because it's so like art house and so like conceptual, it fits perfectly.
It does. It does. And there's so many times where I just make notes and I'm just like, the coloring here, like especially when Homeboy dies and shoots himself.
Yeah.
The like coloring of all the tile
Mr.
and then
Mina.
when his blood gets on it, I was like, yes.
Which they use tomato juice for the blood in this film.
It looks like tomato juice.
Which actually, fun fact, Dwayne Jones, who played Hess, actually was so repulsed still by it because thinking that it was real blood would like go into like retches like and throwing up.
Really? Yeah, but also like I never just want to sit there and drink tomato juice.
True that. I'm not a big V8 fan.
Yeah. Nope.
But yeah. So the movie starts up with like an opening sequence with
it's giving you the storyline.
The storyline with the music, you know, but I didn't have the subtitles on, so I didn't even realize that.
Oh, well, the music comes in a little bit after the like, because I feel like
it
narrates it for you, doesn't
at the
it?
beginning with the titles sequence of like what's going on, basically
telling you about Murthia, and it's an ancient civilization that essentially has believed that they were like addicted to blood, and it goes into like a whole bunch about like only the shadow of the cross can like deliver you or save you, basically.
Yeah, very meta.
Yeah,
it was very heavy on the usage of like the way it worded things.
And essentially what happens is our protagonist, he gets stabbed 3 times by this ancient dagger.
Artifact, yeah.
And it has some sort of bacteria or something on it that causes him to crave blood. And so
also
he's basically a vampire.
Other properties of like vampirism, like living forever,
not being able to be killed,
immortality.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically I guess healing properties, I guess, in itself. But yeah, it starts out with all of that. I love the opening sequence of how it was telling you what was kind of basically going to happen, but then how it opens up with like
the marble sculptures
and the title card.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like just beautiful.
This is where the song was playing, and the song was basically word for word being like, like in Murthia, this happened and you get stabbed and now you like blood.
See, it's the way that
It's basically, it just gives you, and now it was much more artistic than that. But so it basically gives you the whole rundown of it. And so just the fact that even the music was helping tell the story, and throughout the film, I think it does a wonderful job of adding to the story quite a bit. And yes, and then later on it does help again, the music, like if you have it on, you can be like, the score. Yeah,
it really drives and pushes what's actually happening throughout the scenes, because there are no words, so you're just really a lot of the times looking at what's happening, at what's happening on the screen. There are words, but you get what I mean.
Yes, there's
super visual.
They use dialogue when
necessary, obviously, between like the people.
It kind of reminds me of like Ringu. Remember how we were talking about that, and they would enter the room and then it would just
silence.
Yeah, lack of dialogue.
Looks at each other, but not like.
And it's like they're communicating, and we can tell what they're like communicating.
Body language,
but nothing's actually happening.
Being said.
So I feel like this utilizes a good amount of that as well,
especially between him and Hess and Ganja.
Yeah.
And so we're in the church.
Yeah, we pan in on this congregation. Reverend, what's his name? Williams? Is that it?
I believe so.
Okay, because I think I wrote it down like way after. I was like, when I realized, because I just thought it was a random reverend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, we don't got to pay no attention to him.
No, it's that guy again. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh. So I was like, maybe I should write down his name.
It's not really that much of a reoccurring character, but it's kind of like a starting in a chapter.
Reverend Luther Williams. Yeah. And then we've got Ganja and Med. This got a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way.
Wow.
6.2 on IMDb, 4 out of 4 on Deep Focus Review.
Yeah, it's the way that I went into it, not really knowing what to expect, but I can't say that I didn't enjoy watching it. It was really, to me,
I feel like it was worth the watch. Yeah.
So we start out with the church scene and all that's happening there. It's a lot of like focusing on like them singing and worshiping, I guess,
very gospel.
Gospel, yes.
Like we got Southern Baptist, even though I don't think they're in. I don't know where the hell they are.
Yeah, it's the way that I couldn't.
I was like, this could be anywhere.
There was a lot. There was mention of other places like New York and like but there was never a mention of like
Holland.
There was a mention of Seattle. I remember at one point too.
So I figured they were at least in America.
They were.
And then, but other than that, I was like, I have no clue where the fuck this is taking place. But I also, the way that it was panned out with the part 1, part 2, part 3, it gave me, it was kind of like Tarantino vibes.
Okay.
I feel like he will section off his films a lot like that.
Yeah.
I liked that. I thought
I did too. It gave the film different chapters of what was happening, which made sense with what was happening. So.
Yeah. Agreed. And yeah, Reverend Williams is basically Green's Dr. Hess's chauffeur, and that's why he remains relevant throughout the story. And at the beginning, he's narrating it, saying that, Hess is not an addict; he's a victim.
Yes,
he's just addicted to blood.
Quite frankly, they put it out there right at the beginning.
They do, yeah. I mean, they really try to lay it all. They're like, this film about to get trippy as fuck. Let's lay out the groundwork now for you. But that's where we also get the part 1, victim. And then again, the narration. There's a quote, a Bible verse going on talking about the eating and the drinking.
You should
eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, and we should become blah blah blah, whatever it is.
The whole spiel.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's whenever at the beginning, help me out, remember, because that's whenever
they go to that weird place. They're going to somewhere, to essentially where they're picking up Meta.
That's right. Yeah.
Is that where you were going?
Yeah. Because I just remember the Rolls Royce and all of I just remember looking at the car and thinking like, man, this guy's driving in style.
This guy rich.
Yeah, he's got money. Yeah,
he did.
He did, because in the mansion that he lives in, which was also something that Bill Gunn wanted, was like someone of, a black person who actually had money and was living a lifestyle that's only portrayed for like Caucasian people
and well educated, like when he has that conversation with the son and they're having full fluent conversations in French. And I liked the way that there was integration between races and it wasn't questioned. There was no like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really wonderful commentary, considering that, yes, that at that time it was not normal. And to have
there was
that
still a lot of
and to be able to
civil
show
unrest.
it kind of reminds me of like Schitt's Creek, when like how, what's his face? Who plays David?
Yeah, Levy.
Yes, Daniel Levy.
Daniel Levy
Wanted essentially to portray like LGBTQ plus relationships that weren't questioned. Like no one was like, "Oh my God, you're gay."
Yeah,
like they just
it was
loved
just
each other,
normalized,
and that's what it was. Yeah, and no one questioned it. And that,
felt that.
kind of the same vibe. That people can live together because we're people.
Yeah,
and you shouldn't segregate. And I felt like that's a really strong. I felt like it was just really out there.
It's the way that there's so much to like look visually at this movie that like the notes are so long.
Yeah,
literally look at all that, and then like too like I just like hit me flashing back to them speaking French and that opening part as well, because I totally was just like, yeah.
That's where it made me like be like, oh wow, this is like, there's no questioning of this. It's just natural, as it should be. And anyways, so we get to go meet Meta. They're picking up his new assistant in this building. I don't know what it is, but there's this weird white man in a suit who comes back.
Oh yeah, I think I wrote his name down, but we'll come to it because he does come back. Jack Sargent, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't write his name down.
It's Jack Sargent because later on, there's like this weird kind of dream sequence or something.
Yeah,
like weird.
It reminded me very much of like Twin Peaks.
Yeah. There was a weird sequence where
They've all got like silver masks on and they're holding the guns to each other. I was like, whoa, what is going on?
I literally was like, I was lost, but then I realized it was a dream, right? It was because he woke up out of sleep or something.
Yeah, I think it was like kind of a portrayal of his addiction and then also him trying to fight it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that man came into it, but whatever it was cool.
So yes, so we back at them. They were picking up his new assistant. And
I'm sorry. This is where the song basically gives you the context of the film. And I put what a good creepy way to deliver it as the opening credits are rolling by and they're driving. And so that's where they finally start giving us the credits. And then it flashes to being in the mansion and Green and Meta are having dinner. And man, Green just looks so fucking done with him.
Yeah.
His drunk ramblings were intense.
A lot. And that's Bill Gunn.
Oh, it is?
Playing Meta. Yes.
Oh my God, I didn't even notice.
Yes.
Oh my God, I see that. I see that right now. Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Good for him.
But yeah, no, he had a lot to say.
He did. He was
throughout his whole little
so much
opening part, or his whole span of, because he was basically the whole part of part one, which was a good part of the movie. But yeah, no, Green Dr. Hess was definitely, which his first name is Green, right? Green Hess. Okay, yeah, he was definitely like not here for it.
Yeah, because Meta's just going on talking about how the word cut means cunt in Holland, and there was a friend who was directing a film and he yelled cut. Yeah, but then all of the people in Holland got mad at him because they were like, "Why are you yelling cunt, bitch?" Like, and so I don't know. And then
like, why even?
It was such a weird story, but I was like, oh, okay. And then Green goes on to discuss something, and he says something about he poses a question, and then Meta responds with, "If I believed in a desire, I wouldn't be as scared of it," which I was like, oh. Interesting. I guess that's a good way to view this. Like, I mean, if you're not as scared, like you believe that you need this to survive, it's not as scary of a thing for you personally. Yeah. Of course, for everyone else, that is
a
lot, but yeah. But yes. Anyways, at this point now we start going into first fever dream. We get so there's like this trio of, I believe, what would have been the Merthian.
Yes, because
people.
It's the Merthian queen, actually.
Yeah, that headdress.
Who at the headdress?
Fucking amazing.
Very extravagant.
So cool. I was like, whoa.
That's the way that there's like this whole scene with them walking through the the plains, like
yeah.
the something, like a
a wheat field.
wheat field. Literally looks like just a wheat field.
That's what it
probably
is.
in somewhere in Connecticut.
It comes
where they
in a
filmed it.
lot. They
I
run
wonder
through
where
this
that
wheat a
was.
lot.
Yeah, they do.
They love to run.
While the music's playing in the background, and it's a fever dream basically.
Because then this is where we also get the weird mask scene with the silver people too. It's like all meshing together. So you're getting flashes of the Murthian people with the like white silver masked people, and then also Meta is wearing a mask at one point, and Green is just running around like, I don't know. It's
a lot of hot stuff happening.
Yes, it's
a
very
mess,
much
to
like,
be honest. Because I was honestly, it's the way my notes. I'm super confused.
Yes,
I didn't really quite understand what's going on until we then panned to like Dr. Hess being in the bed, and he kind of comes to, and it did seem like it was dreaming. But then I was also trying to decipher what that was. But then it jumps to what happens next, and I'm like trying to figure out what's happening in that next sequence.
Yes, that's all.
Because then he wakes up and he goes outside, right? Something alerts him to Mena being outside.
Yeah, he's going to look for Meta. And then, sorry, I want to say one more thing about the mask scene. I just thought, again, that music was used so wonderfully here too. Like the whole mask scene is just unsettling with the overlapping symbolism between the two cultures, I guess, meshing.
Very cinematic.
And stuff like that. And then just with the increasing tempo in the music, it really pushes it, and it
really drives the narrative of what's kind of happening.
Yeah, and it just adds to the like
confusion, chaos.
Yeah, that is happening. And I thought it did a great job. But yes, he's going to search for Meta now,
which actually makes sense. Sorry, because in a lot of my like fever dreams too, they like just melt into each other. Yeah,
and you're just like,
what's
fuck?
yeah.
Dream sequences should never make sense.
That's when you have a real problem. And so then we find Mena outside,
just chilling with the noose
in a tree, and he's in the tree, and I'm kind of feeling to believe because so the film, the way it's shot too, they're outside, it's dark, and it's 1973, and they didn't, I'm assuming they didn't do like a lot of lighting for a purpose, like, but it's so dark you can kind of barely see what's happening.
Yeah,
and you can just see his legs hanging down from the tree, and he's obviously talking to him up there. But I feel like because you can hear the little froggies in the background, and they're talking about the water, it feel like it's a tree that's like on the edge of the embankment, and it's like he's over the water.
Oh yeah, probably.
Like, does that make sense to you? Because that's what I was picking up on.
Okay, so but then the way he picks up the cup and everything from the ground,
which was I felt like was like
just
on the
right
edge.
on the edge of it.
Yeah,
okay,
and that's why the cup was right there on the ground still. Yeah,
and because he does mention how he also considered throwing himself into the lake. And it was just I was like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Because we were all sitting outside. I loved that we couldn't see his face throughout all of this. And this whole scene was just really good, especially whenever at one point he kind of stops talking and it just like is panned in on his feet and with the rope there, and his feet aren't moving anymore. And I think it's actually right before Green comes out. Yeah. And it's just so creepy.
It's haunting and daunting because there's also a noose there.
And you're
just a lot of
typically when you see
with the noose being
a hanged
there.
body, you just see the feet hanging off the ground. So it was interesting to see the noose within the feet just hanging there as well. And thankfully, he was alive.
Yeah.
For now.
So they're having a conversation. And Dr. Mena again is being very
he's
meta.
Just like, I'm drunk, okay?
Yeah.
And he was like, I wasn't trying to cause any trouble for you. And then he was like, boy, it's my tree.
Yeah, you're on
no
my
matter
property.
What you do, it's going to have to do with me. Like,
it's going to reflect on me. Yeah. They're like, if they find your body, they're going to come straight here. Because I'm the only other black person. Yeah. And so, but I did like how at one point, Dr. Hess said to him, I don't remember at what part throughout the conversation, but he was like, thank God your horrors outweigh your manners. Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote that down too.
That was a really good.
That's a good line.
It really stuck with me.
Thank God your horrors
because
outweigh
Dr.
your
Mena was
manners.
talking about, I guess, different ways in which he thought about committing suicide.
And he said he was terribly afraid of drowning, which, yes, it's one of the most painful ways to die. So, as I guess I don't know, most of those people are dead, so I don't know. But yeah, so they're having their whole conversation. Eventually he gets them
to come down after, like, he's like, give me my drink, and then Dr. Hess gives him the drink, and then like he's like,
You put something in my drink.
Yeah, accusing him of putting something in the drink, but
He's like,
apparently he
"Picked
just
some ants out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm neurotic."
Yeah. He's like, oh yeah, because
He's like very self-aware of himself.
he was like, what does neurotic even mean?
Mhm.
And then he goes, it means it's got nothing to do with you.
Mhm.
And then that's when Green was like, it's my tree and my rope, so yes, it does.
Mhm.
Like, literally all of this has something to do with me.
Yeah.
But he finally gets down. We don't see that, but it does cut to him,
Them being inside,
Meta inside.
and they're having another conversation, and it's the way that
And it's
like,
really
it's shot
only
almost
meta.
It's shot like documentary style almost.
Yeah, because he is giving a monologue.
Talking about living in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and
He's talking about suicide in general, and he says, on one hand, I was the victim, but on the other, I was the murderer.
It
I was like,
it really stuck with me when he was talking about that. I was like, that's pretty deep, about
Yes.
talking about, it does kind of, and that makes perfect sense how he was the victim of his own self, but also the murderer because you're trying to take your own life.
mm-hmm. And he says it's very cat and mouse, and he goes, essentially, the victim got away. The murderer let the victim get away, and I was like, damn. I don't know. That was
It's really deep. It cuts deep because it gets you really. It makes you think, and it's suicide is like a very serious topic, and a lot of
Yes.
people go through that. And so when he was saying that, it was very like it resonated, and it was also just like that is wow. Like when you think about it, suicide is because a lot of people don't just think about suicide one time. Usually, if you've thought about suicide, you've thought about it countless times.
I think about it every day.
And so it's a very cat and mouse game. Yeah. So it's a very cat and mouse game with yourself, all the time living through that. But it's the way that he's discussing this. It's still, it's a very monologue style. And then that's whenever we cut to, I guess they're all supposed to be asleep, or Dr. Hess is supposed to be asleep.
Yeah, and man,
and
that
then
bed is so cool.
The bed looks really cool. But then Mena attacks
All of a sudden,
Hess,
Mena's in
and
there,
it
it's
just like cuts to like them getting into a scuffle, and it's super like the score. It's very loud. It sounds like almost like thunder clashing and all these booms, and it's really cool the way it was shot too.
It was.
They kind of go into the side of the bed, and then Mena grabs the artifact, the dagger, and starts stabbing him 3 times. And
Stabbed him with that dagger.
with the dagger, and it's the way that we know that if you get stabbed with a dagger, you become a vampire. So Mena then like whatever gets away, or not even, just like gets on the bed, and then that's whenever we're to assume that
I was like, oh damn, he's just gonna like go to bed right I don't know.
Yeah.
It pans in on a painting too with the blood on it, and that shot was just
there was a lot
so
of
good.
transitional shots between this whole between all the parts that are happening in the movie that are one driving the narrative, but also they're just beautiful.
they're just pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But yeah, so Meta's essentially, we like go through, and he's really just it seems like he's living almost, but not. I don't know, because it's just odd. Like he's just going about his life, but then at first I was like, is he writing a like confessional note?
Because he's at the typewriter.
Yeah.
So Meta's at the typewriter, and he's having this really long like prose with himself, another monologue, which is also a lot of
it was
soliloquy
beautiful.
that's just like, it's
I'm
beautiful,
trying to
and you're
find
trying to like
it so we can
keep up
read
with
it.
what he's talking about. It's
Because
super insightful.
It really
It's
is.
thought provoking. And the way you're finding it,
Yeah, I'm
I was
trying
like,
to.
I was like, or paraphrasing it.
Oh,
basically
okay, that's where
that-
it starts.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, he's sitting there writing, blah, blah, blah. And then he writes
Typing.
this. It's so interesting because this is the whole script that I just pulled up right here. And so like basically the last words that we had were, it was like a cat and mouse game. You understand that, that feeling. And then the whole murder scene happens, but there's no dialogue.
There's
which
no
is
dialogue throughout it.
like, as we were talking about. And so it's just interesting to see that
There's
this is
such a whole
literally
break, and this is a whole different part of the movie
Yeah.
after a lot of stuff had happened.
a lot of shit just went down
Yeah.
and there was no words. But yeah, this whole monologue that he has for himself is just, it's really beautifully written. And I
Read
was
it.
like,
Read it for the
damn.
kids.
It says, to the black male children, philosophy is a prison. It disregards the uncustomary things about you. The result of individual thought is applicable only to itself. There is a dreadful need in man to teach. It destroys the pure instinct to learn. The navigator learns from the stars. The stars teach nothing. The sun opens the mind and sheds light on the flowers. And I have to hit next. The eyes shame the pages of the book. Gesture destroys concept. Involvement mortifies vanity. You are the despised of the earth. That is as if you were water in the desert. To be adored on this planet is to be a symbol of success, and you must not succeed on any terms, because life is endless. You are as nameless as a flower. You are a child of Venus, and her natural affection is lust. She will touch your belly with her tongue, but you must not suffer in it, for love is all there is, and you are cannon fodder in its defense. And that's what it is. And I was just like, fuck.
I was like, this man is like writing straight poetry over here.
I was like,
on fire
damn.
After this whole scene happened, and we're just led
and
to
then
think
he crumbles
that,
it up.
Yeah.
I said, boy, that was art.
And we were just led to believe after everything that just happened, like, okay, you just committed murder. You're completely unhinged, but wow, whatever just came out of your head.
That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We loved it.
And it was also like a connotation on just like life and life itself, and also like Black experience as well.
Yes.
So yeah. But yeah, it's the way that right after that, then we get to the bathtub scene, right? Which is a really cool scene. It's super interesting the way it was shot and the angle and like the way you can see everything.
But also not see everything.
And yeah. It does well to like not show you his penis for the most part. You get
penis shot later.
You
not
do.
From him. But
Yeah. But even so, you kind of get like a little gist of it. You can kind of see like stuff. But anyways, no, he's in the bathtub scene. He's bathing, obviously.
I was like, he's acting like he didn't just kill someone. What's he doing?
And then in the bathtub, he has like his gun in the corner. And then we have like...
See, I didn't notice the gun.
Yeah. The gun was in the corner. Yeah. And it's just sitting there and he's just bathing. And it's the way that he's like... And it's probably the most unsettling part of the movie is that he's like brushing his teeth and like
with the
bathwater and like spitting it out and then using the same bathwater to like wash his face. Anyways,
I was like...
yeah. But
no, gross,
he's in there and then he grabs his gun and he's kind of like pointing it at himself. But then he gets out of the tub. Yeah. And then now he's outside of the tub. But then he points it back to himself again.
Scene where he's kneeling down and just everything. The coloring in this entire sequence is very good. But once he gets out and once he starts to kneel down, this whole scene is just beautiful. So pretty. The colors are so good. It's very saturated with the blue tones that are coming through, and it really just creates a perfect backdrop for when his blood spills.
It's pretty because then he ends up shooting himself. And when he shoots himself, he falls. And like you said, the blood starts coming out of his body, and the blood that they use is tomato juice. And so it doesn't even, I mean, obviously it doesn't look like real blood.
Yeah.
But the color on it is so beautiful.
Just so pretty.
That
I didn't care.
Contrasted to like the tile of the bathroom floor. It was shot really, it was beautiful.
It was.
And it's very, it's poetic. And
I felt weird writing the note. Because I was just like, the blood on the tile is so pretty. But I was like, that sounds so creepy. And
so
then
it's the way that
fucking green comes in like
Hess,
a goddamn vacuum.
Because Hess at that point, while Meta is like about to shoot himself, is coming to, waking up from being stabbed.
And then he's like checking out his chest and he's like, oh,
he's healed. He's fine. He's not dead. And so then he comes and he sees that Meta killed himself and there's all this blood. And it's the way that he just quickly jumps down and starts like sucking on it because instinctively he just wants to drink the blood.
And he's literally just like
with
his
slurping
fucking
it up.
mouth to the floor to suck up the blood, which I like that it also never shows them drinking blood directly from a human.
No, yeah.
It's always
either
was collected
after the fact or collected from them. And then
well,
they drink it
I
from
guess
a cup.
at one point she's like licking it off of him, but not. But they're never. It's not like your traditional vampire, like biting the neck. Yeah.
And then he ends up praying in a field, right? Because he's like, "What am I doing?"
Yes, and then the cross was also floating in the bathtub water because there was a cross on the wall, and then it ended up in the water, and then we get more wheat running. Yeah, we love it, and he's sitting there reciting Bible verses. That's what he's doing, and
at that point he realizes what he's doing. He's like, "Oh, I'm drinking blood, and I really love it.
And this tastes real good."
Yeah, and he's kind of putting like, because it's not said or anything, but he's a smart man, so he's putting the two and two together of like, well, had this artifact and I was studying these people and now I'm one of them. Like, yeah.
And then this is where we get part two,
survival.
And I love it. This bitch was just sitting there smoking a cigarette while getting his blood drawn.
Yeah.
I was like, what a 70s thing. What a 70s thing.
He's at the hospital getting blood drawn, smoking that cigarette. And it's the way that then after, I guess he's done with that, he makes a diversion by popping a firework or something.
Yeah,
Like
I don't know. He made some sort of small baby explosion. Like,
happened in a trash can.
Yeah. And then he goes and he steals all the blood bags.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, LOL. I love it.
Yeah. It's the way that they look too. They were kind of very like silly looking. The blood bags look like straws already in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know what blood bags normally look like, but
either.
This seems
Usually, typically, but he still.
This seems like the Halloween version
and
of
then
blood
I love
bags.
how he just walked out of there real cool, like, and was just like whatever with the little bag, duffel bag.
He looked so
His
good.
coat. And then I love actually too. I love a lot of the shots that we got of like the city from back then, because it's really cool to just like see the times and how things are definitely changed from where they were back then and how they are now.
There was a bus that drove past too.
Was that red and white bus?
And it said Liberty
yeah
on the back, and I thought that I was like, that has to have some sort of symbolization too. I feel like to it, the way that it
makes
just
sense.
was so bright.
A lot of the movie was super symbolic.
Yeah,
I'm sure everything was probably like really well thought.
It was really beautiful,
even if we didn't catch it the first time. So yeah, and then
but
that's
now
the way
we're
that
at
he
the
ends
fun
up.
party.
Yeah, he ends up at a party.
And his son's there. We didn't realize it's his son at first, but he's holding hands with this old woman who is reciting some sort of poetry, I guess, to him. And they're all very well dressed. You know, it looks like your typical English tea party out in your back.
Well, I mean, and throughout the whole movie too, like the outfits, the styling, and like even his outfits, his suits were like super on point the whole entire time.
Yeah, very well
it was
tailored.
very tailored. Yeah,
everything. It was like, these people are high class. But yeah, so then
it's a sign, and then that's when
she goes, "There's your father," and we're like, "Oh, okay, Green is the dad."
Yeah.
Good to know. And they're sitting there. They have a whole conversation in French. I have no clue what they said because I don't know French, and it didn't give me subtitles. But yes, it was nice to listen to. And this is where I made the comment that I feel like it's really nice to see this mixing of races here and to depict it as completely normal, which it is. But at this time, that was something unheard of.
Not what was happening,
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the movement was still happening. And so, it's still happening today, but that was very unheard of at that time. So I thought that was really good. And then it pans in on that weird, creepy statue lady as he leaves the party.
Oh yeah,
that was creepy.
There's a lot of pan-ins to statues throughout this movie too, or little ornate things, whatever.
And this one looked like some sort of beat up. It kind of looked like Robert the Doll. You know,
what's Robert the Doll?
Oh, he's a haunted artifact who's kept in Florida, and
I don't think I've heard of that.
Honestly, he kind of looks like Weird Cheese.
Weird Cheese?
Yeah, he's gonna haunt me for saying that about him.
I never want to be called Weird Cheese in my life.
But like, if his face had darker markings, but it kind of looked like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Haunting.
Yeah, that's Robert the Doll. You see what I mean though about his cheese face?
It looks like cheese.
Like, I think it's because it's got these holes.
Cheese. Oh, I didn't even see that from the other picture. Yeah, he looks like a sponge.
Yeah, a little sponge.
Aw.
Cheese doll. Ugh, he's gonna haunt me.
Yeah, it's the way that that party happened, and then after that, he ends up at a bar, right? Am I jumping?
I think you're jumping a little bit.
Okay.
He's going back to the house though. And so it pans in on the creepy statue lady. The distorted music starts building. It starts with seeing her. And then it just starts building. And then the distortion gets wildly out of control as he fills his cup up with blood.
Oh, that's right.
And then it cuts to a red sky morning. And I was like, ooh, that was nice. Because it was like silence to this nice, still, serene red sky at morn. Sailors be warned.
Very symbolic of what was happening, of him drinking the blood and like the climax of that.
But then now he's we flash to a bar, and her green eye makeup was so pretty.
Oh, it was beautiful when he's at the bar and she's working, and there's this lady who works at the bar, and she's wearing this really cute dress, and it was like this combo. Beautiful eyeshadow.
Loved it.
And it's the way that she's talking to him, and she's like, "Aren't you Dolores Kincaid's old ex-boyfriend?" And she's trying to strike up conversation with him.
And he's like, "No."
Yeah, but then he tells her to sit down, and they're having a conversation. And it's the way that they then end up back at his apartment or wherever he's staying.
I think it was
her place, I guess.
Yeah, and that bread spread. oh
Yeah.
my God, was so
cool.
beautiful.
Mhm.
I was like, I want
The
that.
colors.
Yes.
That's the pattern on it.
Mm-hmm.
All I noticed was there was chocolates, like an open chocolate box on top of a TV, and I was like, okay, interesting. With like a water and then like alcohol bottles, but it had to have been her place or someone else's place because
Yeah.
it's the way that they're about to
I
get
feel
down.
like he was kind of like that guy next to her was kind of like,
No, this was a setup.
yeah, her pimp or something.
Yeah.
Is that?
This was
Is that an
definitely a
okay
setup.
word to
I think they
say?
wanted to. I don't. Yeah.
I don't know. She was a sex worker
Yeah.
for sure. And I
Mhm.
think he was in charge of her.
Yes.
And yes, was trying, they
That's a
were
way to put it.
planned to
I understand and I pick up what you're saying.
extort
Yes.
money from him.
And so they are.
I wasn't expecting them to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I thought she was just going to get money because
it's the
they
way
had
that
sex.
it's the way that it seemed to me like they had any. I don't know. It's they did that, and then it's the way that I already knew instinctively he wanted to kill her because he wanted to drink her blood, right?
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
his whole MO.
Yeah.
But then that dude came in, and I think maybe they were trying to rob him or something.
it all
or,
happened
like,
so fast,
very
but they
fast.
stabbed him, and I
They
was like,
tried to
what?
stab
what?
him, but obviously
I
he
think
can't
he
die.
did. Yeah, but
because
they
he's immortal.
successfully did stab him.
And he can't die, and so it's the way that then Dr. Hess starts attacking them, kills them, obviously, and then he kills the girl and he drinks her blood, obviously.
And then it also shows like meta again. His death sequence pans in again,
yeah,
and it shows him shooting himself in the heart as the girl, shoots green.
yeah,
And motherfucker got shot like 6 times.
and it didn't do anything.
Yeah,
to
it
him.
didn't do anything. But I was just like,
Yeah.
holy fuck! Like he's like Michael Myers out
Literally.
here.
I like the scene too where then at that it's like it's a montage of like visuals and then you can see like him cutting their neck and then like
Literally draining them of blood.
draining the blood. Yeah.
Yeah, I did like that a lot. I was
Mhm.
like, oh, what a nice, and it was almost unsettling to watch because it had the
Yeah.
little,
Yeah. The little
spurts.
squirts.
Yeah, like
the
you could-
effects, the visual effects.
which that was good. And that at first looked a little too like watery
Yeah.
tomato, but then it started looking more convincing.
It was just really pretty.
Yeah,
If
it was
anything.
again the
colors,
coloring
like are very vibrant.
with her skin, and then
Mhm.
she had
The-
like a purple dress on or
Mhm.
something, and then the red, and it was like, this is nice.
It's pretty.
How nice to watch someone get killed. And commercial break here.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
As if the McCrispy couldn't get any better, Bacon and Ranch just entered the chat. The Bacon Ranch McCrispy, available at participating McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
It was beautiful. Those colors were really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I think
The weird mask came back in that point too. At one point,
it was flashed through on
yeah,
the images.
they just were like, "Here's the silver mask." I was like, "Okay," but this is where I was like, "Man, this gives me some hella Twin Peaks vibes."
Yeah,
Which that whole show is a fever dream.
it is.
It's
I only
so
saw
good.
a little bit of it, and I couldn't really
You have
but
to
really
pay
mhm.
attention. Otherwise, no, you're going to be like, I have no clue what just happened. And that's kind of how this movie is.
Yeah.
But then we get part 3,
Part 3, letting go.
letting go. And
This is kind of where the most of the movie is happening.
yeah, we're about to have Ganja come in.
Mhm.
So now it's getting more and more like speed is happening.
Yeah. It's picking up, and we're getting to the chunk and the meat of the movie is what I guess basically want to say. But Mr. Meta's wife, Dr. Hess gets a call from Mr. Meta's wife, and is basically saying like, my husband has been staying with you. Where is he at? He needs to come home. But then it goes to Dr. Hess being like, well, he's disappeared. He's not here anymore because obviously
He hangs up on her the first time.
Yeah.
He just goes, he can't come to the phone.
Yeah.
And then
then-
so she calls back because
Yeah.
she's stubborn as hell.
Yeah.
We love it.
Which we get to learn. She's a bad bitch. And so we have her explaining to him that basically is that she's doesn't have any money. She's trying to find a place to stay. And since her husband, who is apparently missing, who she thinks will turn back up because he's crazy and he just goes missing sometimes or just goes away, disappears, if
Goes
she could
rogue.
stay at his house with him, since he already has a room and board there anyways. So
And I love it. Hess goes,
where are you?
ma'am, it's been a very difficult week. And she goes, I've had a very difficult fucking 6 months.
Mhm.
Okay, motherfucker. And I was like, ooh. And then, yes, he says, where are you? And she says, I'm standing in front of Pan Am in the driver can't miss me because I'm valuable. And
Very
I was like,
valuable,
yes,
yes.
bitch. Yes.
Yeah, it was a good
I think she
line
said
for her to
Pan
say.
America, like the whole
Pan
word,
American,
but it's
yeah.
Pan Am.
Yeah. Which was a very big,
Yeah, that was like the airline then. But damn, she's just so beautiful.
She's very commanding already. She's gorgeous. She's played by Marlene Clark,
When she gets out of that car.
who is also in a bunch of other movies at that time. But yes, when she gets out of that car, and all of her outfits throughout the whole movie too
Are just
like
incredible.
on point.
They're amazing.
Whoever stylized the movie, styled it, was like really knew what they were doing. But yeah, so she getting picked up. She gets driven to the mansion. It's where she meets Dr. Hess outside, but she's like, tell your boss I'm here. But then he's like, I
I'm
am
actually
Dr.
Dr.
Head.
Green.
Yeah, Dr. Green. And then she kind of looks at him, and it's the way that at this point is where we're starting, where we're getting like all of these kind of scenes between them where there's not really a lot of dialogue, but they're just kind of looking at each other or there's long pauses.
She realized she fucked up. You can see her kind of biting her tongue.
She's like wincing.
And then she's like, okay, well, I'm really tired and I want to change.
Yeah. And so they get inside. She gets out of the clothing she was wearing clothes, and then she gets into this also nice outfit that's like a nightgown kind of outfit, I guess, right?
It looked so comfy. And this is where I put, like, originally, the moment they started pouring that alcohol, I was like, they actually look so good together.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I put, oop, they're going to fuck.
Oh, yeah. My next one is, oops, she trying to fuck.
Yeah, literally. Because they're at this point, she goes to the same quarters, which is essentially like a living room, I guess, or a reading room that he has.
A den,
and music's playing on the record player, and they're just kind of having some drink, some wine or whatever, and conversation, but not conversation. They're looking at stuff, and then it's the way that they're just still enjoying the night together in the next scene. And
it's just all sudden they're in bed, and then he's like, bye, motherfucker. He runs off.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, and she's like, the fuck? And then you get to see her boobies there, and they look really nice.
Yeah.
And I was just like, where's he going?
Yeah, he runs to the attic.
Maybe to try and not kill her.
And that's what you get. That's what I like, where I essentially picked up too, where a lot of this maybe relies on like what you're seeing and not necessarily what's being said, because that's what I also picked up, is that at this point, because you see like they were really enjoying each other's company, that he didn't want to kill her or attack her, and he literally was feeling his instincts of like, I want to suck your blood, and so he ran off. And it's the way that she's a stubborn woman, and also
she's like, where'd you go?
she's chasing him after he goes to the attic, and he's like on this bed, and he already drank some blood in the cup because he was trying to satiate that thirst.
And then he's basically passed out on the bed when she finds him in the attic, and
they make sweet love again.
Yep, stuff starts getting physical again. And then it cuts to them being outside having
and they have
breakfast.
They have chairs like your chairs.
Yep, I put LOL, that peacock chair looks identical to mine. I was looking at the pattern on the edge, and I was like, yep, that is the same peacock chair.
Those chairs are so famous too.
His chair was a different peacock chair, but hers looked,
almost
it could have been the
identical.
same one. Yeah.
I watched it with Robert, and it's the way he was like, oh, it's like Caitlin's chair. It's like literally.
They were. Yep, I that's my notes right there. LOL. That peacock chair looks identical to mine.
But yes.
And then I put they clean up real good. They look so fucking
do look
good. At this
She looks so good. His suit looks really great. They're having this like brunchy breakfast whole situation. She's asking him questions, and he's like
impolite
questions. But that's her forte. She loves impolite questions.
She says they're the only ones worth asking.
That's how you get to know someone. And he's like, well, what do people get to know about you? And she's like, nothing.
And he's like, they get to know that you like to ask impolite questions.
Yeah.
And she's like, fair enough.
And so then they're having
poor Archie's just being there. He's like, do you want some fresh coffee? He's trying to like break the tension because she mentions money. She mentions money, and you can see Hess's eyes look to Archie like,
you already know from her, she's looking for power. She wants money. She wants glory.
She does.
She wants a sugar daddy.
She does.
Yeah.
She do.
And so
and then she's so mean to Archie.
She's a little mean to Archie. Yeah.
So mean. Basically, it's like
she's making him work because she's
servant.
like literally asking him to get all these things for her. She's talking about she needs this
talking
and that.
to him like he's an idiot.
She's like patting on the table.
She's like, I need the grape jelly. Okay, do you got that? I'm also going to need an extension cord for my record player.
And something else.
Extension cord. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like how she was, and I was like, girl.
She's being very condescending.
Bitch, like he is not a child.
But in a way where I was kind of also living for it.
Yeah.
Because she was being that, like.
She was,
yeah. She was being that bitch.
But also, poor Archie. He never
Poor
did
Archie.
anything.
He really didn't. He really
He
didn't.
just was
He
so
didn't deserve all
sweet.
that.
Making all those nice little foods.
And so they have.
Oh, and then she goes, "Where did he? Like, how did you get here?" And Archie says, "He came with the house." And she goes, "So they put in the plumbing and then they put you in next."
Yeah, she was very sarcastic with him. So sassy.
Oh,
I love it because they're having a whole conversation and then they go get groceries or something like that.
Yeah. So she, at this
A
point,
jump maybe, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's basically what happens. He's going to leave.
That's
She's
right.
standing up on the terrace, and I was like, man, she's trying to wife him up. Like, damn. And
Dr. Hess
because
leaves.
she's like sitting there being like, what can I make? Like, is there anything in particular you want for dinner? And he was like, no, just whatever you're good at. And then she goes, did I hear you say you don't believe in marriage? And he was like, I never said that.
Yeah.
Like,
She's already laying down. She's putting it on heavy, pretty much, is
I'm
what
like,
we're getting at.
Like, she got over metal real fast, huh?
And so it's
She
the
don't
way
give
that,
two shits.
yeah, literally, and it's the way that she then
At this point, she still thinks he's alive.
She does. She thinks he's gonna come back at some point, but she's still trying to like hussy up with this guy, shack it up. And so yeah, her and Archie come home with groceries because they're gonna cook dinner.
Oh, and those are some industrial strength shopping sacks. Like the way that Archie's picking them up.
Yeah.
And oh my God,
There's
this
a
bitch.
lot. And that's the way she's like, Archie, you forgot the wine. He's like, well, Dr. Hess has wine, in his cellar.
He was having to carry all of those
Oh, yeah,
bags,
that's right.
then open the door for
And
her.
she didn't know. She's closed it behind herself.
She like wanted his help. Like he held up his somehow free hand to help her out.
Yeah.
And then yes, she goes into the house and closes the door on him.
Yeah.
And like leaves the car door open. And I was just like, girl, like, oh.
She's being a bit of a diva,
She really
some would say.
is. But yes, she needs the wine, and he says, well, he keeps a great wine cellar.
But we're not allowed in the cellar. And the only time I've been to the cellar is when I'm with him. And so she's like, I won't tell him that you told me, basically. And I'm going to go, basically, she's going to go to the cellar. So she's like, he points it out to where it's at. And then she goes to the cellar. And she's looking for wine. But it's the way that she opens up basically.
I wonder if he got bodies down there.
And she opens up a walk-in refrigerator. And there's her husband.
That wine cellar was dingy as fuck.
It
too.
was.
And it's just filled with blood.
Yeah,
And then,
it's
yes,
the way
and then
she
meta.
finds the body, and she gives this like really good scream, and the visual on her face when she's screaming,
Blood curdling.
Yeah, literally. And so yeah, then after that it pans to dinner, and they're across from each other. And I love how it's shot when they're at dinner. What?
Actually, it cuts to Green walking up, and he had went out for a bit, and he walks up to this random white bitch on a stoop with a baby
while that's happening.
And so then it cuts to, and he had slept with her and then killed her and then left her body alone with the crying baby. I was like, savage.
Yeah.
Damn.
I remember that.
And yes, but then tensions are very high at this dinner.
Yeah.
Very, very high.
Because they're not really
her
talking.
outfit here,
the
too.
outfit is beautiful. He's like,
The lighting, everything in this whole scene was just so
he was like, how was dinner? She's like, I couldn't really quite cook it. And then he's like, oh, okay. And then she's kind of being very like short with him. And then
he's like, are you okay?
And then she's basically like, I know you murdered my husband
Mm-hmm.
because I found his body in your refrigerator. It's so funny the way she delivers that line.
And then Green's basically like, Archie, can you clear the plates because we don't seem very hungry?
Yeah.
And I was like,
and so then
he's so level-headed.
And it's because the way Archie's looking at him too, like, what do we do now?
You killed someone.
Yeah, literally.
Archie's like, I just work here.
But he's in it. He literally takes the plate. And he's like, okay, sure. And so then she walks off, and then
and
she
this is where
herself.
I said the costuming and the set is gorgeous. She's literally just
pacing back and forth,
waiting for him to come to her, and then he doesn't.
Yeah.
So then she walks back, and this is where it starts panning again in on some statues, too. And I was like,
as
okay.
they're having a conversation,
and then it flashes to her having a monologue. About snowball fights.
Yeah, about when she was a child and how she was having a snowball fight with her friends outside, and that whenever she went back to like home or something, her mother questioned her like, where have you been? Kind of insinuating that she had been running off with like some boy and was doing things she shouldn't have been doing.
Because someone said that they'd seen her being chased by a boy. And she said, well, because we were having a snowball fight, everyone was chasing after each other.
Yeah, and basically kind of getting to the point, or to sum it all up, is her mom wasn't really that nurturing or that good of a mother towards her.
She called her a slut.
And she called her a slut. And she kind of just like had something that she was holding some begrudge against her because she didn't treat her well, and she was saying how she had these older siblings who were 10 and 8 years older than her, and she felt like she was a mistake.
She was a mistake. She said
a burden.
Her mother basically viewed her as a disease, and she said, like, I came down with ganja, and she said I was a disease, and I decided to give my mother a full case of it.
So she decided to give,
and I was like,
give her
hell
hell,
yeah.
basically.
She was basically deciding that she
it was a very deep
yes,
monologue, yeah,
and that she was only going to provide for herself, and it's really, she's only got herself in the end,
yeah,
and so she's going to do whatever it takes to make sure she's
to
good.
provide for herself,
yeah,
and that's what she's getting for,
which is very telling for her. For her, like,
for sure, her whole character,
being,
her whole arc of why she is the way she is, and then
she gets over Meta's death real fast as they're now having a pillow fight.
Yeah, and they're like playing, they're having fun, they're like, you know, very much in love. It's the way that I can feel like.
Cute, yeah.
I feel like also too, we're not seeing it, but obviously I feel like time has passed. Like they've obviously been together for a little while.
Like she was wearing the same outfit though,
and they're
she just took her hair down,
and they're getting married in the next.
Yeah, I was like, oh fuck, what? They're getting married? What? But then her wedding dress get up was so pretty too.
Yeah, everybody's outfit. There was this chick with the little coiffed hair and like blue outfit that was beautiful. Their whole regalia.
It felt like very random ass people just sitting there witnessing their marriage, and I was like, okay.
But they were pretty. They were dressed well.
And then, how sweet, they disposed of Meta together.
They did, and that's why it was very kind of almost, it was symbolic too, where like they're giving their vows at the same time during the wedding, as like you're getting this visual of them disposing of a body together. Yeah, so it's like literally like through thick or thin, like through getting rid of a body together.
Yeah,
and so
like we in this, it flashes to them in bed now. I guess their honeymoon kind of thing.
They're consummating their love.
Yes, and he says, you still think I'm psychotic? And she goes, of course.
Yes.
And she was like, you're into horror movies, I can dig it. And I was like, man, that's us.
Yeah, literally. And so then he's like, I want you to live forever. But
she also says, let's follow nature and celebrate our divine art in all 69 positions.
Yeah. She has a slut. She has a freak, because she says everybody's a freak somehow. And so she's okay with him, you know, having have murdered her husband. Well, that's what she's under the assumption, even though her husband killed himself.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he then once is telling her that he wants her to live forever. So then we're kind of like, we know what's about to happen. He stabs her with the dagger 3 times, and then that's.
And at first, her body laid there a little long, and I was like, is she gonna come back?
Yeah.
Because then I was like, oh shit, did all the like bacteria come off in him? And so now he's not actually gonna. Like he just murdered her.
Yeah.
I was like, that would really suck.
Yeah. And so we have like.
Then we get another wheat running shot.
Another wheat running shot.
In the white dress, and it's so beautiful. And then I put also, damn, her boobs.
Yeah, she looked really gorgeous, even when she fell down, and you just see like her tatas just like flopping. Yeah, it's nice.
Flopping. But that whole scene was just absolutely gorgeous, especially at first too, when it was only showing her feet and just like her running. There does seem to be a weird focus on feet in this film too.
There is actually, yeah, I've noticed that.
Because later on in one of the congregation scenes, it's also
on
very
the feet,
fixated
where they're dancing,
on feet. Yeah.
And then earlier before that, where she's with that guy and it's on the feet. Maybe Bill Gunn had a foot fetish.
Yeah, maybe. Never mind, I'll tell you that story later.
And so yeah, they're all this stuff is happening, and then I feel like we get another, like, isn't it, because I was a little confused, to be honest, there comes another part where it's like symbolic visuals of her transforming, I guess, into
so it basically comes to them, they're walking now in this somewhat of a more traditional looking garb, maybe I don't know, like trying to, I guess, pay homage to the Myrthian culture. I don't know. And she says, like, I had a strange dream last night. I dreamed that you murdered me. And I was like, bitch, you did.
Yeah.
But then, yes, so there's a shot of them with the flowers and more traditional garb. And then the dagger, it's him lifting it up. And then all of a sudden it comes down and she's screaming. I guess he's like
explaining to her what happened. Yeah. And that's the visual of what's happening. And then
then you get the like whole.
It's like almost like a ritualistic point, like visual of what's happened.
It did feel that way. And then you get the camera, like, it felt very found footage, like first person point of view as she falls to the ground.
Yeah.
And I put here, I almost wish it could have ended there and I would have been okay.
That's literally what Robert said.
There's like 3 different endings where I'm like,
he literally
this could have been fine.
That. He literally was like, this was the perfect spot to just like have ended it, and it would have been like beautiful.
I would have been like, perfect.
Yeah.
Sold. But then there was other things that happened where I was like, okay, well, this is really cool. So I'm glad it didn't. But
then
it could have ended there and I would have been happy though.
Yeah.
But yes, anyways,
So
she
much.
does seem hesitant at first about some of the blood, but then, because then it pans to them, she's in bed.
Yes.
She looks pretty rough. He's
She's going
brought
through
her
it
some,
because she needs to drink blood.
yeah. And she's like, and then I guess she takes that first sip and she's like, okay,
It's what
damn,
she
this
comes
some,
back to.
this
Yeah.
some good
She's
shit.
like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, she drinks it right up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it cuts to that dinner. And
He invites a guest over because he's like,
he said, we're going to have a guest for dinner.
Yeah.
And I was like,
it's
you
literally,
actually going to eat the guest.
Yeah.
But, ooh,
The way
this
that
scene,
the whole scene between her and the guest, because she essentially sleeps with him. She's doing the same thing
wait,
that
but
Hess
even
does.
just them at the table
Oh, yeah.
with her, they're both in solid red outfits.
Mhm.
And then we've got these giant red roses in the centerpiece too. And it
The
was just,
contrast.
and then it was such
Beautifully
a dark
shot.
room
Mhm.
to where almost everything was like black. But then you just see these 3 red focal points.
Mhm.
And then our guest on the other side.
And it's metaphoric of like the blood that's about to be spilled.
Mhm.
You know,
it was just, God, it was so
they're
beautiful.
vampires,
Yes. And,
And so,
but yes, she
yes.
does seduce the guest.
which is
They're
beautiful.
literally going to have their guest for
I loved
dinner.
how all of these shots too, when like their people are sleeping together, they're so beautifully shot. Like
It
the
was.
bodies just like intertwining with each other, and it's very tastefully done. Like
It
you don't
was.
get anything really
Like,
raunchy.
I literally put this sex scene as beautifully shot.
Yeah,
Because yes, it didn't feel.
it's not raunchy,
it
but you
was-
still get like that passion. It's
It
very
was
passionate.
sensual.
It's sensual.
Yeah.
It's the way that I was like, am I watching porn right now?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know.
But not in like but like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, wow, this is very erotic film.
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
And she puts, before they even like get to it, she puts a weird ring on his toe,
Yeah.
and then
put
she
a ring
plays
on
with
it.
his nipples, and then they just start fucking.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
And she's like cut him on the back. She's like used her fingers, gouge his back, and he's bleeding, and she's like
Mhm.
licking from it. And then it has this
The
scene
whole
of
shot of
her drinking from a rose, and then the
Yes.
statue is leaking blood. It became so
Heavy on the visuals, and then at the end it's him literally with blood all over him, and I thought it
Yeah.
was so beautiful the way it would contrasted against the skin, and like just like
it
the
looked like
symbolism.
glittery, and it was so nice.
It was beautiful, yeah.
And
They
then
looked like
she
vampires
was
from Twilight.
screaming with a blood-covered face.
Mhm.
And then we pan to, and he's just covered in blood, like she killed him dead.
And it's
dead.
also beautifully shot because it's also symbolizing like it's her first like kill. It's her first like kind of her.
It gave me
It's very like ritual, like very like what's the initiation into the
Yeah.
lifestyle.
It reminded me of, like, I wonder if Queen of the Damned and
That's literally
Akasha
what I was thinking. in my
played
mind,
on
yeah.
this at all.
sure, maybe.
Because
Mhm.
was that her name? Was that the
I'm
queen's
not- I
name?
don't
Akasha.
remember. I think so, but I
Uh,
know Aaliyah, Queen Aaliyah.
Yeah, Leo played her. We have the same birthday. Well, did.
Mm.
Anyways, it was beautiful.
Mhm.
This whole scene was
Yeah.
beautiful. I literally put like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It was really
Her
beautifully shot.
animal instincts just got carried away, and the symbolism used to depict all of it was just wonderful, instead of actually showing the carnage that it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah,
And it looked
It's
so
tasteful. It's
beautiful.
pretty. Mhm.
Yeah,
She just killed this man.
she did. She just like
Well,
fucking.
Yeah, and it's the way that because they're about to they're disposing of the body, right?
Mhm.
And it's the way he's in a bag, and then I guess he's breathing again.
He was like,
Yeah.
I saw his chest move.
And then she was like, he's alive, and she, I guess, wants to save him, but at this
Mhm.
point, Hess is like, no.
Yeah,
And so she's like, kind
she's
of
very upset.
battling the thought of like having to kill and stuff. I think at this point
Mhm.
for her bloodlust, but at some certain point that does change. I feel like, because then it's like she is essentially hungry for the power of like having everything
Immortality.
and everything that comes with it now.
Mhm.
But I feel like without Hess, you know what I mean?
Yes.
She's like, now I can. She's like, she's got it, and she's like, now I want more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Never
Never
her
truly satisfied.
thirst is never truly
Which also
quenched.
ties into the symbolism of addiction in this film, because
Mhm.
everybody like Hess was addicted to blood, and she was addicted to power and
Mhm.
money and like authority, because that's what she felt like she needed to protect herself.
Yes, I agree. That was beautiful.
Okay.
And then they get inside, and
Mhm.
he's talking about a little bit more of the history, and talking about Helga, the fourth queen of Merthia,
Mhm.
and basically is saying
The
that,
demise of them.
yes,
Mhm.
there is a way out of this curse,
Mhm.
per se. He says, if the shadow of the cross is against our heart, it will destroy us. And it's more of an instrument of torture for them. And nothing can survive in the shadows, is what he says.
Mm-hmm.
And basically it's giving you like, there is a way out.
Yeah.
And
There's a way for us to be killed. We are not immortal.
you have to be saved,
basically, is what I got from it.
is what I got from it too.
Yeah, because it was a lot of like
Evangelical.
Yeah, and like also too, like it was the way like he words things. It's like you really got to think about what he's trying
Yes,
to
you
mean
do.
from what he's saying. And so yeah, that's essentially what I got. I was like, oh, like okay, if you claim that God or like whatever Jesus is your savior, and you then are by that blood cleansed, then you are no longer this. But then you die
Then you die.
because he died.
He does. But then it cuts to the congregation once again, and they're sitting there singing this gospel like
Yeah.
choir song over, and the whole time they're saying, "You've got to know to let it go when it's over," and they're just repeating it, repeating it, and that's heavily. It's literally
And that's
telling
what
you,
part 3 is about, letting go.
yeah, you have
And-
to know to let it go when it's over. Like, this is your time to step away from it.
Yeah.
Is basically what it's getting at. And, you know, he's giving Reverend Williams or whatever was giving this whole monologue, like saying he's high on the Lord, blah, blah. And, but then the dancing and the shuffling across the stage when it was solely focused on the feet
Yeah.
was creepy to me.
It was creepy to you?
I-
I see that.
The way that his feet were moving didn't seem
It looked like stop motion.
possible. Yes. It looked like he was like
Mm-hmm.
teleporting and it was just weird. Watching it, I was like, ugh, I don't know why this makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, I grew up in like a Pentecostal church when I was younger, so it's not necessarily like heavily. I mean, I would say in a lot of the times with worship, like there's dancing that goes on, so I that would look very familiar to me.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I went to a lot of non-denomination,
Uh-huh.
and they are all about speaking in tongues and dancing and doing everything, and so
Which
that
was all throughout this
wasn't
movie
weird.
as well.
It was just literally how his
it
movements
did-
were
and
happening.
I had a note on here. It was like
Looked
it looked
very
like it was
unnatural.
stop motion. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, hello. And so yeah, they're in the church, and it's the way that he calls anybody to the altar, and that's whenever Dr. Hess goes up there, and I guess
put Green
essentially
is there.
gets
I was kind of hoping
saved.
he was gonna kill everyone, but whatever.
And then after that, he walks out.
the
essentially.
gospel scene, like with Reverend like sitting there just like petting Green's head and
That
everything.
was weird.
It's almost too long, but
was a little
I
weird.
think I like that.
Yeah.
It's like it feels uncomfortable in the building tension because I was like, I'm not sure what's gonna happen.
Mhm.
And this whole time I was like, is Green gonna snap? Is he getting purged?
Yeah.
What is going on? The whole time Reverend's just still praying and stuff, but then he's like petting Green's head, like quite literally.
It goes on for quite a while.
Yeah, and then I was like, are they purging him? I was like, is that all it took?
That's all it
It's
took.
just a-
some prayers and some dancing, and that's it. And he little cried, the whole Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess something else happened. Oh, so he's running. We get another wheat running field shot, and I was like, this is a fever dream. Like, holy shit. And that shot is just beautiful of him running
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And I almost wish it would have ended
He's
right
like
here
taking
too.
his shirt off, and he's like, yeah. It's just metaphorical in a sense. I guess he's like, I don't know, going back home. I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was quite literally going home.
Yeah.
but
Because then he ends up back home, and then he just dies.
Yeah, it cuts to him crying, and some man was singing, but I guess that was the music.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, they've got this weird big ass cross hanging up, and he's like, "I want you to come with me."
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right, in the chair. And then
she's basically like, she
No.
doesn't say anything, but yeah, he is in the chair, and then there's this double exposure of him breathing heavily with the wheat field again. So we're getting the wheat field and running through, and then but him like sitting there dying is essentially what it is.
Mhm.
He's has
giving up.
very
He's-
labored breaths, and he's quite literally
transitioning.
dying. Yeah, the breath is leaving his body. His life is leaving his body. And then there's just this intense wailing as his collapse happens, and it's
Yeah.
showing Meta's death yet again.
Yeah.
And it's just like flashing, and then this wailing that's happening it's very like, it reminded me of Midsummer, whenever they're
okay.
all sitting there together,
Yeah.
like crying.
And they're all feeling each other's pain at the same
Uh-huh.
time. Yeah.
That's what the sound sounded
Mhm,
like. Not
mhm.
the
It's very haunting. Yeah,
visually.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was just very like, what,
Yeah.
what? And then it just goes to like straight screaming.
Yeah.
And then I was like, damn, so that's how it worked?
And that's it.
I was like, so that worked? He's actually dead?
He's dead. And then so then it cuts to Ganja then like having the ambulance come and pick up his body. They're taking his body. Then she's getting asked questions by the paramedics.
The questions are so informal. I was just like, what?
You called the doctor when you felt sick? Yeah. And the doctor said he was dead? Yeah. Okay, bye. Thank you.
That's all we need.
They take the body, and then it's the way that she's then just looking out of that mirror or window.
And the red imagery here is just so damn beautiful.
And then she's with the music, and then she's looking, and then there's the pool, and then that guy, which I think was supposed to be dead, comes back running back. And that's when you get the...
I put, oh snap, that one guy was alive?
Yeah.
And he's
I'm assuming...
running up with his dick flapping all over the place.
Yeah, his penis is just flapping everywhere. And then it's kind of her smirk that she's looking at the window, and then she breaks the fourth wall and is looking at us, the camera basically, and has a smirk, and it's just kind of like the sense of like she ended up with everything.
Oh, and did you see that Archie was dead too?
And Archie was dead.
Yeah, she killed him, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah, she ended up with the house and everything. And
but it ends with that nice creepy shot of her, and then the ending credits, we get this children's choir sitting there singing this weird creepy blood fountain song that's just like saying you gotta bathe in the blood of the river from someone's veins or something. And I was like, what the why is the children's choir singing this? Like, don't tell them that. Ugh. And then the last scene is just this little kid. He goes,
oh yeah,
he just like looks at, it's not creepy, but like with the music and the imagery of everything, it was creepy in the way that it paused on that and then fades to black.
That's it.
My last note is, damn, well, yeah, that was good.
It was pretty good.
I think it's a boo times here.
It's boo time, yeah.
How many boos?
I give this movie four boos.
4 boos?
4 boos.
Yeah.
4 solid boos. Yeah. I liked it conceptually. I liked that it was not just like it. I mean, essentially, it's not really heavy on horror, but I really liked how thought-provoking it was, how beautiful it was visually, how the music drove it, how the character, like, I really enjoyed, like you pointed out, the part 1, part 2, part 3 aspect of it. It's very storytelling, and yeah, it was actually a really beautiful love story.
Yeah, it was.
To be honest,
it was.
And
except for she fucks him over in the end.
And they were gorgeous. Like the whole time she was on screen, I was like, wow, how is she so beautiful?
For real, she was
so gorgeous.
She's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I imagine that she's maybe now going to continue that life with Homeboy.
Yeah, or something, or whatever.
Is what I feel like.
Do whatever she wants, honestly. She probably will for a while, and then
get
screw him
bored
over
of him
and then get
like
another
Lady
guy.
Gaga.
Like, that's exactly what I was like. AHS Hotel probably borrowed heavily on this, especially like the love scene and the transforming your lover into a vampire.
And honestly, Queen of the Damned.
Yeah.
Too.
Everything, a lot. This happened way before everything. This was 1973.
Yeah. So I'm curious now if this was a source of inspiration for some of those, because it should be. And I do believe this film actually got lost for a little bit.
It did. No, so what happened is that like the producers weren't happy with what he made, and so there was like different versions that got released of this film of different chopped up like parts of his footage, and they all had different names, like Double Possession and something like something that was more heavy on like vampirism, and then something else, and then after 25 years until the 90s or something like that, after his death, it got re-released for someone in the modern arts film something museum got with someone else, and they were able to bring it back, and I'm so glad they did. And then just a few years ago, Spike Lee made a remake of it, which also kind of drawed more attention to it. So
yeah, because it really
getting
was
its acclaim that it deserves.
I think so.
Your boo rating?
My boo, I think I'll have to agree with a 4.
A solid 4.
Yeah, it really was beautiful. It was captivating. It was pretty long. It was an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, just about.
So that's a pretty long movie, and it really, so much of it was like, what is going on? But I loved it.
It's very thought provoking, which is sometimes you want a good movie like that.
Yeah. You want to sit there and like actually pay
Get
attention
challenged a little bit.
Yeah, because it's definitely not one where you can just watch it and like zone
mindless,
out. Yeah, you have to. And I told you that as we were texting about it. You're like, I don't even know what to expect, and I was like, okay, well, pay attention, because if you don't,
I realized soon into it. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, she wasn't joking. Yeah,
but it was good,
because otherwise you will miss things, and little subtle important things. So It was great. I loved it.
So everybody, you should go watch this movie, most definitely.
Yeah, we watched it
Recommend
on. We had to
Prime.
get it on Prime with the Showtime subscription.
But if you get Showtime and start the free trial, and who knows, you might enjoy it and keep it, but you don't always have to keep the free trial. It might
Yeah.
work out for you just to watch the movie. But yeah,
It's definitely worth it. Worth the watch for sure. But as always,
we're in the lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
they take great care of us. We've got new faces here today. That's exciting.
It's always exciting.
Yes. And you can listen to us on so many different platforms. The biggest two being,
Spotify
that's right, and Apple iTunes.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you are listening there, please don't forget to,
Rate, review, and subscribe.
that's right, because it's the only way we can get ahead in this world.
Yeah.
And it means a lot to us. So
It really does.
please do it.
Thank you. But yeah,
You can also find us
on social media.
exactly
that
one
is,
platform.
on Instagram.
And that is at
Boo Bays Podcast, all one word. And that is BOOBAES. Because we're your Boo Bays, not your
Boob
Bays, as I'm hitting the microphone. All right, you guys. It was a fun one.
On that
it was a
note.
good one. Can't wait to hear or can't wait to speak to y'all next time.
Yeah.
On that note, bye, Bays.
Bye, babe.
This has been a Rogue Media podcast.